Getting together in real life is the new luxury, and brands that are tapping into experiences are getting more value than ever as people want to connect in real life and get away from purely online. These are some of my favorite brand activations we've seen in the last few years, plus a guide for how to throw your own brand activations, whether you're on a small budget or a big budget. So in this video, I'm going to talk about brand activations from Béis, Rhode, the RealReal, Prada, Lululemon, Miu Miu, run clubs with local brands, Tracksmith, Bandit. Just give you an idea of what events did good and bad, and what are some things you can learn from. Then I'm going to walk through my rules of great brand activations. And I've done everything from small brand activations, like I was just at ComplexCon with my valuables brand, all the way to major budget trade shows and programs where we were doing events all around the United States on road shows and global with bigger brands I ran marketing for. Then I'm gonna get into pro tips and the little things people don't think about when they're doing a brand activation. And then we're gonna end with activation ideas. So if your brand's trying to come up with stuff for next year about how they stand out, we will dive in and get some great examples. We're gonna kick right in with Béis, a creator luggage brand, an amazing brand overall. They did the Béis luggage wash, kind of like a car wash, which ties into one of my favorite things about good events. These are events that allow you to participate in something with the product that the brand has. There's too many events that are just like a happy hour or a pop-up or come buy our stuff. But when you actually get some value out of it or it gives you a reward as a consumer, that's an amazing way to tie it together. So they opened up this luggage wash on Melrose where you could bring in your luggage to actually get cleaned up and washed, because as anyone that has luggage knows, it can definitely get dirty over time and there's no like straightforward way to sit down and clean it. So they're helping people do that for them. And then at the event itself, there are tons of very social media friendly activations and things you can do there. Now the downside of this particular event was they were not prepared for the sheer attention that it got. There was tons of people that could not get in. They were not able to service their customers and their people correctly and got some light backlash on it, but everyone that did get in had an amazing experience. And when I get into our brand rules and pro tips here, I'm gonna talk a bit through how to handle that. But I loved this idea of let's take a car wash and apply it to luggage. If you do have a brand that has some sort of consumer pain point like that say, oh, we can't clean it, or how am I gonna fix this? I mean, there's any number of ways that you could apply this to all kinds of brand strategies. And speaking of customer pain points and designing your experience, I wanna talk about the Rhode pop-up. Why I'm talking about more female-centric brands is they often provide better blueprints than men's brands. They're often social media savvier, have better marketing and activations overall. And so it's always good to look outside of industries that you may be in to see who's doing it well and how you can apply that back to whatever industry that you work in. So Rhode had this pop-up in New York. And what's important to note about this is they are primarily a D2C brand. They are not in the Ultas and Sephoras and all the big makeup stores. So you actually have a hard time trying and finding their product, even though it is ridiculously popular. As many of you know, I work at Van Group and we did the Rhode website. Now, I'm familiar overall with their strategy and the strategy of how to position a brand online to be perceived as luxury, to be able to have an experience that's amazing for consumers. That website features all these amazing features like the website vlog navigation, the ability to transparently see what all the ingredients look like, the art direction overall. It's just an incredible brand experience, one of the best you can see online. And then when they translate that into the real world, it's very specific. Since it doesn't happen at retail, there's a lot of pent-up demand from consumers who want to be able to see and try the product online. If you have a brand that is primarily online, you probably have that same pent-up demand in some variants, right? And to your degree of size. Well, Rhode may have millions of people that want to try on their products, even if you have hundreds who say, you know what, how would I actually get to even try on the sizing for a clothing brand, or learn about this makeup, or try out this, this electronic. You have that demand that you can tap into when you're doing an activation. So what Rhode did here that was smart is they had the availability to get sold out product in person at these events. They had the ability to actually try on something that you can't try on anywhere else and get tutorials of it. A super social media friendly setup. They took care of people online, which we'll talk about in the pro tips. They had little things that were extra aesthetic, like you could get matching bags to your blush sets and things like that. And then of course the opportunity to meet pregnant Hailey Bieber. Might not be on the top of my bucket list for the weekend, but for a lot of fans, I'm sure it was.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Reflecting on what I've tried to learn and master this year and where I want to improve, I am currently really focused on art direction, as you can probably tell from a lot of my videos. And starting this month, I'm trying to actually shoot a bunch of my own photos to use in my examples and to be more active on my own brand shoots. So in Skillshare, I've started several classes like this how to use Flash example that we have here, and this advanced product lighting class, because lighting is definitely my photography weak spot. Whether you're looking to improve your content toolkit like me, or just exploring marketing, branding, and design and trying to learn more, Skillshare has a ton of class options designed by creatives for creatives. And the first 500 people to use the link in my video profile will get 1 month month free to start learning for yourself.
Let's talk about a less successful event. So the RealReal did a pop-up on Canal Street. It was a great conceptual event. So Canal Street, for those that don't know, is a place in New York where you can go to get fake product. And before the internet era we were in, where you can basically go online and find almost anything cloned in China in pretty good quality, you used to have to go to a place like Canal Street to go find your fake bag, and it would probably be pretty mediocre. But he's renowned for that infrastructure of selling fake goods, and they set up a pop-up down there. And the idea of the pop-up was it was filled with items that did not pass their authentication check. So the RealReal sells secondhand luxury goods. They authenticate to see if it's real. Plenty of things don't pass because oftentimes people don't even know they have dupes. I have a story about that from an item I have in my interior of my house that I did not find out was a dupe until someone mentioned it on social media. When they saw it, it happens to the best of us. But screw the guy at the estate sale that I got that from. Here we are. But they filled it with those products. They said it was closed every day of the week on the signage. And you got the idea you could go scan a QR code and authenticate, and get involved at the RealReal to get real products. This was interesting. This was more of like an art piece, right? People walk by, run by. My friend Ashwin actually went down there and parked on the corner and saw a handful of people engage. But it's not really an engagement, right? It's more like a billboard than anything else. Whereas if they were able to bring some of that energy into something people could go in person and say, hey, do you not know if your stuff is real? Come check it with us right here. It's an authentication program. Or, and this will tie to Lululemon here in a moment, actually come trade in your dupes for some level of value. There's so much more in actually getting that engagement level and getting someone to show up versus just making something a billboard that, even though it was a great concept, I feel it falls flat compared to what you could do in that same scenario. Or you can actually just get the guys from Pawn Stars to come down and see if it's real or not, which would be a fun activation for any brand that does resale. Which brings me to Lululemon and one of my favorite brand activations ever. So when Lululemon was at their absolute peak a few years ago, and they may have a peak again, they're a brand I have a lot of love for. They had a dupe event where basically you could come trade in your knockoff Lululemon leggings. Ladies out there, I know you are guilty of buying a couple of those pairs off Amazon Prime. These are just as good, and then 3 weeks later being like, I'm gonna go back to Lulu. But you can actually bring those in there and trade those in for credit towards Lululemon products. And this was an amazing way for them to activate consumers who may have had a bad experience to turn it into a good experience with them, to throw significant shade at all these knockoff companies that were coming and get headlines, whether people attended the brand or not. And obviously it cost them, and I think I saw a headline where they got $100,000 worth of fake product turned in. So they had to give away $100,000 of their product or whatever it was, but the goodwill that buys, the brand sign that it sends, and then the people who are willing to go to that activation and meet each other and have fun and engage with Lululemon, I feel like that was an excellent activation. And again, if you're in a market where you're being duplicated or knocked down and you want to do something like that, and maybe it has a cost, maybe you have some limits, whatever it is an awesome brand idea that I want to have a big shout out to their team for. But let's tie into how do you have luxury events and pop-ups that aren't some huge thing? So one of my favorites that was done recently was Chanel took over a diner and made it like a whole Chanel diner experience where you could go in there, engage with perfume the way you engage with old school eating. Obviously that's kind of an expensive social media moment, but for a luxury brand, they have budget for it. But on a cheaper note, one I love is the Prada flower carts. So they were just really cute Prada branded vehicles filled with flowers the way you'd go up to a flower vendor. There's one down here in Newport Beach by where I live, but it's completely Prada branded, really high-end florals. And you can get a Prada bouquet as a gift for your girlfriend or your friends or your house. And I thought that was an excellent example of something that it's the cost of a branded vehicle they can reuse again and again. It's sourcing those flowers from somewhere, but the ability to sell them at a premium with the Prada logo on it, create a social media moment. And I thought that was such an authentic, great, fun brand idea that really resonated with me. On a similar point, Miu Miu, brand of the year, incredible execution on product and everything they've done, had summer activations this summer that were amazing. And they tapped really into their audience. And it's not just the audience that like the core buyer of Miu Miu, but the new buyer that loves the brand and may not have engaged, maybe too high of the price point, or they're getting that one Miu Miu piece they really love. You went to this event and they were literally giving away ice cream and feminist literature. And this is just a great example of, those aren't super expensive things to give away. It's the ability to tap into a brand moment that has so much resonance, it is so nichely specific to this type of aspirational customer that they have, who is getting to save up for that one piece, to then get a book that means something to them, that resonates with them in the back of their head, to have that little branded ice cream portion, that they are an example of, even though they have all the budget in the world, it's a massive brand, they're choosing to do something extremely niche and clever that really resonates with their audience. And if you're a regional brand, there's a lot of opportunity as well. So when I was at the HubSpot inbound trade show with Ashwin and Jordan, and we were doing our Brand Brothers live kind of big end of year thing there, We went to a run club with a brand called Tracksmith. So they're a global running brand, but they're based in Boston. They have a very collegiate Boston feel. And they have a retail store there that's gorgeous, a lot of old wood, feels very old New England, really great brand representation. But every couple days, I think it's a couple times a week, but we went on a Friday. They have people come and do a run club from there. As a running brand, it makes sense. You meet at the storefront. They have some coffee and croissants and stuff from the place across the street. We went on, I think it was like a 5K, nothing crazy, in and around Boston. And we invited a bunch of our friends who were there for the show. They had a nice existing crowd. Now there's probably 100 people running on any given Friday morning, but they are engaging with and supporting their local community. And because they have a storefront, it's easy enough. The employees of the storefront were leading the run. It begins and ends there and raises awareness of it. And there was a real community feel. And what I liked about it is it was all walks of life. There were tons of young college kids that were out there. There was a lot of older people that were obviously kind of trying to get in shape and just wanted like someone to be able to do that with. I love that idea. You know, run clubs have become almost a stereotype or played out in people's minds, but such a great thing to engage with. If you are a running brand, there's no reason that you shouldn't be doing one. What I love there is it has such a local feel. And if you have a retail storefront or have that presence, even if it's your first one, doing things like that there can really help cement in your community. And then I want to shout out Bandit Running's activation because theirs is actually taking that to another level. So Bandit, very viral New York City brand I love, the running shorts I wear all the time. And they actually do it, it's like an application only run club. Like you have to be going for a certain level of goal. They're like looking for those like achievers, for marathoners, for people that are really going for it to build a specific community. I love that idea of taking an existing popular thing like a run club and saying, how do we put our spin on it? Okay, let's go for, we want the people who are really training for something intense. We want them in our group, and we're going to create a community for them. It's another point of differentiation that I love as a brand activation idea. So now let's go into Oren's rules of a great brand activation. So the first is engage in an activity. Like throwing a happy hour or just having the ability to shop is not enough. Give people something to do. Obviously, running and working out is great. I'll throw out some other ideas coming up here in the video, but centering it around an action or an activity does so much more. And the second is don't be afraid to gain some value and educate people. Like if you are throwing a makeup pop-up, being able to have someone to help you do a look or determine your own style or do your color or getting free headshots or whatever it is a great opportunity. I'll shout out, there's a Phoenix studio my boy AJ used to run. They would do I think it was like once a month, they would do like an open Fridays where people could just come get their headshots done. I think like the first couple times, like it was their friends, and then like by a couple months in was like popping. It was like an event to be because basically all these like aspiring models, people needed professional headshots, people wanted to hang out, or musical artists would be like, okay, I can get a couple free photos done this day. I'm gonna come hang out, I'm gonna bring other people. And it was like a huge event that brought a lot of notoriety to their studio, and they'd have like hundreds of people at. Eventually from there, get sponsors and move on. But the idea that you're gonna get some value, you're gonna come away with a deliverable is huge. And this is something I've been working on a lot. As many of you know, I do like workshops with brands where I'll come in and do like a social media planning session or a positioning session. And we'll actually work over the course of a couple hours to achieve a goal versus me coming and giving like a motivational talk, which is probably less effective, as motivating as I am. And then now, if you're able to apply that to a group, say I was going to throw an event here in Orange County, that's the same thing I want to do. Like, hey, why don't I have 100 people come and make a social media plan? That's much better than just having a meet and greet or anything like that. How do you give somebody a deliverable to get something out of it? Whether that's fashion tips or styling tips or learning how to fix their car or wash their luggage, whatever it is, give them some value. And then making it social media friendly. There's two aspects to this. The first is there stuff that's actually worth taking photos? Much like we'll see in the Chanel diner or the way the mirrors are set up, making sure the lighting is good, making sure there's places where people can very naturally take photos that aren't corny, to look good and interesting and stand out, and also represent your brand. Not just that it looks good, but there's the ability to have your logo in there in a way that's natural or the product in there in a way that's natural. And then also, can you help facilitate that? I was at a Google event for the launch of like a Google Gemini for Workspace a few weeks back where they actually had like handlers there who literally had like shirts or signs of like, we're here to help you take photos for social media. And everyone was using it because like, oh great, someone who will just, and they had like basically hired freelance photographers and stuff who could come help take your photo or help you with your content. It's actually like a big come up, and I would highly recommend. And last, activate your audience and then partner to get some audience. You want to activate your local audience, but also if you have local influencers or people in whatever area you're activating, you can get involved to host or be a part of it, to work on that, adding that extra community layer through some light collaboration, not just with another brand, but with potential of influencers or hosts is a great way to do it. Now we're going to hit my pro tips, things to stand out that you may not think of when you do an event. The first is to take care of the people in line. This is something they were doing at the Rhode event where they were like bringing around like water with fruit or whatever they were doing. Something that didn't happen at that Béis event where people were complaining or they're hot. If you're going to have a big line, or even if you expect you might and people are going to be waiting for hours, like have freebies you can give away for them. Make sure you have drinks and food you can help out, or snacks. Partner with a local brand to be able to help on that. Like give those people an experience too, because that's the worst feeling if you wait in line for 8 hours and don't get in or had a dehydration issue. That's a brand experience you need to consider. I would also recommend having a great giveaway. Whatever you're going to have that someone is doing Like for the event and taking, whether it's a branded bag or whatever it is, think a bit above and outside the box to make it interesting and potentially viral on social media. People love free shit, especially if it's social media friendly. And then if people aren't there, get them involved too. So I was giving away these tech pack journals at ComplexCon. And I told everyone at ComplexCon they could come by. We gave out 200 a day. Tons of people came by to get them. It was awesome to see. But also we gave a free PDF version away for everyone that wasn't there and got almost 1,000 people that commented asking for it. So even though they're not at the event, even though we do want to create some level of FOMO for people that are, at least you have some version or a couple of them you give away for people that aren't there so they can also get involved. And then collaborate. Don't be able to do things, be afraid of doing things between brands or with influencers and getting others involved. 1 + 1 always equals more than 2. Then have an extension plan. A lot of these events, you want to be done at 5, but you realize you have a 4-hour line. Just know that if that is the case, like have a plan to stay open an extra hour or 2, or what happens if you run out of stuff. Always be thinking about what that good result looks like. If you're looking for a way to do this, how do you manage it all? Because there is a lot. You basically have to sign people up for the event and get them locked in. You have to have your guest list and manage who gets in. You have to be able to send reminders and stuff like that. There's platforms for that. I did some content on Instagram with Paperless Post. They're a great way to do this. They have a Paperless Pro platform for brands. It has like invites and designs and SMS and all that built in. So there's like one platform to manage it. I'd be thinking about using one of these apps to handle that. If you have a retail location, don't be afraid to use it. It's an awesome opportunity. And again, it doesn't have to have a ton of money involved. I'm gonna break down some event ideas to end out this video in a second. But like if you have a location, you are losing out by not taking advantage of it, whether that's a studio or an office space or a retail location. Use it versus having to go rent out someplace else. And last, don't be afraid to think small. If you don't have a lot of budget, or even if you're just trying to try this out, having an event for 20 people can be almost just as impactful as having an event for 200. Because think about how special those people will feel and the relationships you're going to get out of it if you do something like that. I highly recommend thinking about it. Now we're going to end with some of my activation ideas and things you can consider doing for your brand. One that I love is the office tour and the office open house, especially if you're launching a new product. Invite a bunch of your existing customers, anyone in your region. You can parse that out in Omnisend or any of the email platforms you have. You can look by location to see where your people are to invite them and obviously put it out in your social media. If you invite those customers or your locals to be able to experience a new product and just come to your office, again, it doesn't have to be something super expensive. Get some drinks, whatever it is, get them to meet people. You are utilizing your space to help launch something and doing more than just putting out an email and a social post that exists. Highly recommend, low lift, and a great brand activation idea. And then we have workshops. What can you do to actually get people to improve around your product? If you have a fashion brand, host a styling workshop where you have a pro stylist there to help people dress and they can bring photos of their wardrobe. Easy one with makeup. Say you have a car accessories brand, you can offer free oil changes or teach people how to do oil changes themselves if they grew up without a father or whatever it is. I don't know if that's PC or not. Think about what is a workshop where they could get some value off of. Customization is a great option. As many of you know, I spent some time working at the shoe surgeon. Tons of people would do workshops and customization events with the shoe surgeon. We had the NFL do events with us there, where basically everyone from large brands to small brands, that people could bring in their shoes, or they could have white shoes that they purchased from us, and they were able to customize those and create their own creation there. I've seen the same thing with screen prints. I think Arc'teryx had one at one point with an artist series. We could bring in your Arc'teryx, and there was like a bunch of pre-designed prints and things that you could put on it. That stuff, it goes really far, and again, is not super high lift. When there's swaps and meetups, this is a good example. Again, if you don't have a big budget, customers coming together to be able to swap garments that they don't want anymore. Like honestly, as someone who has a lot of extra large stuff I don't wear anymore, if I could go meet up with some brand related thing and swap that with someone else who has an XL for some things I might like, that could be huge. I think there's a lot of that. There's a really fun idea where you're just facilitating interactions between people, but it has a purpose. And there's games and competitions. I think people underestimate how silly and fun you can do to actually have something like that, whether it's some sort of like turkey sack run, or you imitate whatever Olympic games there are, or you go knock off the Squid Games or Mr. Beast games, or just throw something in the office. Having a competition or something that's interesting, especially if you're a gym or any of those kind of things, like doing some basics or some fun there and like having some easy prizes is a great way to get a community involved. Yes, I am thinking with Landforce and a few others of having the old washed influencer games where you get to see us compete on things like a javelin throw and everyone has to be 35 plus. If you guys want that, if you want to sponsor it, you can just hit me in the DMs. And then last, having themes. So you've seen all these lookalike contests be going really well right now. The Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. But whether it's a theme of something like that, or whether you're having people dress up or doing something in black tie, people are looking for an excuse to go outside. They're looking for an excuse to wear their outfits, just encouraging people to wear their craziest stuff or their most high-end things, and doing that, or 50s night or whatever it is an activation in itself and allows people to have fun. One of my favorite brand activations is Born and Raised, has like a prom in like Long Beach or somewhere in LA that is outrageous. And people dress up fully for it. A lot of people never got to have a prom experience for whatever reason, get to like now live that out. And they had like the old school photography and all that. Just an amazing activation idea that I absolutely love. This is my video about brand activations. It's a topic I love. I've done tons of events in my life. I love bringing people together. Hopefully we'll be doing some, whether it's valuable events or just events for myself or for Hyper coming up soon. I'll let y'all know about when we do. If you've gone to any amazing brand activations or have any amazing ideas people should try, please drop them in the comments. I'll try and aggregate some in a future video, but thank you so much for watching.